Number 9. Willard Noble Chaiden Miller and Jeremy Everett Goodale. Iowa teacher Nohema Grabber was reported missing to the authorities on December the 3rd of 2021. Originally from Mexico, the 66-year-old woman had been teaching Spanish at Fairfield High School for several years prior to her sudden disappearance. Later on December the 3rd, Grabber's lifeless body was discovered in a park that she was known to frequent. Her remains had been hidden underneath wheelbarrows, railroad ties, and a tarp, and her cause of death was subsequently determined to have been a traumatic brain injury. An autopsy revealed that Grabber had been viciously attacked with a blunt object, most likely a bat. During the ensuing police investigation, the authorities received a tip regarding disturbing content that had been posted online by Fairfield High students Jeremy Everett Goodale and Willard Noble Chaiden Miller. Detectives executed a search warrant for the teens' houses, whereupon it was discovered that they'd been plotting to murder Grabber for some time before finally carrying out the heinous act. Blood-stained clothes found at Goodale and Miller's residences were taken in as evidence. The young men were ordered to stand trial separately and, in spite of their age, were treated as adults during the case's court proceedings. If found guilty, Goodale and Miller faced the likelihood of spending the rest of their lives in prison without the possibility of parole. Number 8. Rafael de Comas. Furious with his professor's decision to schedule an exam at 7 a.m., Florida Atlantic University student Rafael de Comas decided to vent his frustrations online. However, instead of merely ranting about the perceived injustice, the 20-year-old student tweeted a threatening message against his data structure teacher, identified as Carl Wiss. The tweet, which when edited for grammar read, "I'm going to kill my professor. This is my confession to a premeditated murder," was posted at 1 a.m. on November the 27th of 2018. By the following day, de Comas's IP address had been tracked and he was arrested on charges of intimidation. While being interrogated, he admitted to having been upset by Wiss's decision to schedule an exam so early in the morning, as it meant he'd have to wake up at 5 a.m. in order to get to class on time. The student assured investigators that he'd never intended any real harm and had deleted the tweet soon after posting it, realizing that it was an inappropriate joke. De Comas was released on bail and no further information had been released to the public as of recent updates. Number 7. Elisa Hatcher. Florida couple Tammy Hatcher and Michael Scheller contacted local authorities in the fall of 2019 after developing concerns about fraudulent transactions being made with their credit cards. When detectives started tracking the $1,400 that had been stolen, they discovered that it had been the victim's own daughter, student Elisa Hatcher, who was behind the financial fraud. Furthermore, it emerged that the young woman had been using the swindled funds to facilitate a murder-for-hire plot aimed at eliminating her parents. Elisa was arrested on September the 9th of 2019 and initially only charged with grand theft and fraud. As investigators questioned the suspect further, inquiring what she'd used the money for, she admitted to having spent $100 on illegal substances. The rest had reportedly been used to pay 2 of her friends to kill her parents. The first prospective hitman, who was given $400, didn't ultimately go through with it. Elisa then paid a second hitman more than double the original amount, in the hopes that it would serve as an encouragement for them to finish the job. 2 counts of criminal solicitation of murder were thus added to Elisa's charges. If convicted, she could reportedly face up to 30 years in prison. Number 6. Hannah Napka. Ohio student Hannah Napka accepted a plea deal with prosecutors in connection to the murder of 31-year-old Shay Breyer in order to avoid a harsher sentence. As part of the bargain, she acknowledged her participation in the violent crime by pleading guilty to a reduced charge of manslaughter. Napka was consequently sentenced to 10 years in prison plus 7 more of probation. The young woman also agreed to testify against the other 2 women alleged to have participated in Breyer's killing on January the 12th of 2020. According to court records, Napka had been recruited by Esther Stephen and Shelby Heistand her softball team coaches, to aid them in their sinister plot. Stephen and Briar had reportedly been in the midst of a contentious custody battle at the time, and the former thus sought to have her estranged partner eliminated. Napka ultimately agreed to drive the car that would allow the two culprits to escape the scene of the crime undetected. On the night of the murder, Stephen distracted her ex-boyfriend, while Heistand, who was 18 at the time, approached from the back and shot down the victim with a rifle. The co-conspirators were each sentenced to 55 years behind bars. Number 5. Nicole Lee Boover. On October the 8th of 2012, 19-year-old New Orleans student Nicole Lee Boover attempted to carry out the murder of her own mother. On the night of the reported attack, Boover's stepfather frantically called 911 to inform dispatchers that his wife had been shot. The young woman had allegedly left the house and rushed back to the Louisiana State University campus in Baton Rouge after shooting her mother, who ultimately survived the attempted matricide. Boover was aided in her escape by fellow student Andrew Uhas. Together, the pair made their way back to campus, where they were arrested later that same day. Boover and Uhas were each charged with attempted murder, as well as possession of illegal substances, and were sentenced to 5 and 2 years of probation respectively. During the case's legal proceedings, Boover admitted to having tried to kill her mother in order to gain access to her inheritance, which she promised to share with Uhas. From 2015 to 2019, the young woman reportedly violated the terms of her probation several times, at one point spending a brief stint in a correctional institution. During a 2019 compliance check of Boover's apartment, authorities found her to be in possession of a loaded shotgun, a violation which could potentially add several years to her original sentence. Number 4. Chidinma Ojukwu. On June the 23rd of 2021, undergraduate student Chidinma Ojukwu was arrested for allegedly murdering Super TV CEO Yusufo Ataga. The 21-year-old suspect was remanded in jail for 30 days along with her sister, Quadri, while the homicide investigation got underway. Ojukwu, a resident of Lagos, Nigeria, was interrogated by the police for several hours before finally admitting to stabbing the victim to death during a robbery on the night of June the 15th. Additional conspirators were arrested over the course of the days that followed, including Ojukwu's father, on charges that included obstruction of justice, failing to report a crime, and dishonestly receiving stolen items. Ojukwu's murder trial was delayed on several occasions. In March of 2022, she reportedly participated in a prison beauty pageant, during the course of which she successfully won over the crowd and earned the title of Miss Cell. Number 3. AVALONE TENIQUE FISHBACK. Langston University student AVALONE TENIQUE FISHBACK attempted to hire 4 different people to kill her former boyfriend between July and September of 2018. 20-year-old Fishback reportedly met at least 2 of the would-be assassins on the dating app Plenty of Fish. After receiving a tip about the murder plot, Oklahoma authorities arrested Fishback, who initially denied any wrongdoing. When shown screen caps of the conversation she had with the potential hitmen, she finally relented and confessed her misdeeds to investigators. The first man she'd been in contact with in July had requested $1,000 to carry out the crime, but Fishback backed out of the deal after discovering that he was facing prior criminal charges. A second agreement, this time for $600, was reached with another user on September the 28th. Fishback posted bond in January of the following year, pending the continuation of her case's legal proceedings. Today's topic was requested by Jackson Adams, Inshray Singh, Taimika Hicks, and Chantel Kitty Kreider. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Muhammad Ali. On February the 8th of 2020, 18-year-old student Muhammad Ali shot 2 of his friends in cold blood while they were driving from their hometown city of Alexandria toward Danville, both in the state of Virginia. Ali reportedly rode in the backseat with a concealed 9mm, while Joel Beander, aged 21, and Ayanna Martinez Griffin, aged 18, took turns driving. believing they were simply doing a favor for their friend. According to Ali's later confession, when they were only an hour away from their destination, he demanded Bianda pull over to the side of the road. He proceeded to shoot both of his friends before the car came to a complete stop. Ali then pushed the lifeless bodies out of the vehicle before continuing to his destination. Upon his arrival in Danville, he reportedly spent time with another friend, whom he asked for help in covering up the crime. The pair returned to the location of the bodies, at which point Ali stole the victims' cell phones, crashed the car into an embankment, and tossed the murder weapon into the woods. After going back to his normal routine, Ali began confessing the shooting to several friends over the course of the following days, which eventually caught the attention of the authorities. On December the 15th of 2021, having confessed to the murders but refused to provide an explanation for them, Ali was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms. Number 1. Jonathan Martinez Garcia. Jonathan Martinez Garcia, a student at El Dorado High School in Las Vegas, launched a brutal attack on a female teacher on April the 7th of 2022. The teen had reportedly lured the unnamed instructor into a false sense of security by telling her that he wanted to meet simply to discuss his grades. Instead, Garcia wrapped a computer cord around her neck and strangled her until she fell unconscious. The teacher later detailed how she'd woken up during the attack, but Garcia grabbed her by the hair and slammed her head against a hard object, at which point she fainted again. She couldn't accurately tell investigators how long she was out the second time. After regaining consciousness once more, the teacher discovered that her pants and underwear had been pulled down, whereupon she decided to play dead. When Garcia finally decided to leave, he covered what he believed to be his victim's corpse with a cabinet. The police were alerted to the attack that same day and apprehended the student. Investigators recovered traces of the assailant's DNA on the victim's body, as well as defensive wounds on the student's arms. During questioning, he claimed to have been scratched by a car. When asked about the attack directly, Garcia initially claimed that he'd blacked out and couldn't remember what happened afterwards, but eventually admitted to having assaulted his teacher. Due to the severity of the crime, presiding Judge Kathleen Delaney decreed that Garcia would be tried as an adult. During the initial stages of his legal proceedings, the young man pleaded not guilty to his criminal charges. Thanks for watching. Would you rather travel back in time and restart your life at a day of your choosing, or be given $5 million? Let us know in the comments section below.